Ladies and gentlemen, my southern kinsmen, distinguished guests, please allow me to welcome you to the Florida League of the South 2021 Annual State Conference. My name is Michael Tuck. I'm the state chairman, and I welcome each and every one of you here today. We have some folks traveling some pretty good distance to be with us today. We have some folks in Virginia, it's an 11-hour drive, North Carolina, some friends from South Carolina, Georgia, South Florida. Am I missing anybody from another state yet? Show of hands. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the sacrifices made to get here. I'd like to invoke the blessings of the Almighty upon our meeting today. And to do that, I'll bring Pastor John Weaver up to lead us in prayer.
Father, we are thankful for the Lord Jesus Christ, this great salvation. We pray today, Lord, that you would help each speaker to work in our lives, teach us truth, with your grace and your mercy. In the name of Jesus Christ, we ask in prayer. Amen.
Amen. This meeting is being videotaped today, so as a courtesy to our speakers and our camera operators, I'd like to ask you that you all turn off your cell phones. And also, we'd like to keep all the amens and hallelujahs to a low roar so we can get some good audio quality and no interruptions in our videos. Our four speakers will be, the videos from our four speakers will be available on our website as soon as it's processed. I was also asked to remind you that there will be no videotaping or photo taking during this meeting. One of our speakers will be photographed for purposes of his, and that will be almost allowed. This conference is being hosted by the North Florida chapter of the Florida League of the South, and I want to congratulate them on doing an excellent job of finding a beautiful venue for us and providing the great table of breakfast and lunch items and the layout. It's an absolutely beautiful location. I want to give them Normally, I'd like to spend a little time during this introduction to tell you a little history of the League of the South, but in the interest of time, I'll leave that up to our president, Dr. J. Michael Hill, and our executive officer, Mr. Mark Tomey. Suffice it to say for right now that despite what you might have heard from our enemies, the League of the South is a band of Southern ladies and gentlemen. We are working for secession of the Southern red states, and interestingly, you say secession, oh my God, that's a horrible word. Interestingly enough, the poll was conducted by Bright Line Watch. It was released on July 14th of this year, and it found that 66% of Republicans in the 13 southern states, including Florida, are in favor of secession. And I've seen quite a bit of this on Facebook and other social media forums, the Governor Ron DeSantis fan club page, and other places where secession is becoming a household word. And I would like to think that the 25 years that the League of the South has been promoting modern day secession has begun to pay off. You say 25 years, man, why aren't we there yet? I got to remind you that the great Southern fire leader, Robert Barnwell Redd of South Carolina, he was lobbying for secession from the state of South Carolina for 32 years before they finally took that step in 1860. So our work's cut out for us. We might have a little bit more work to do, but it's become mainstream. We got mainstream politicians discussing secession as an option, so we count that as a good thing. If you will refer to your program agendas, you will see that today's meeting consists of two parts. The first part began at 9 a.m. and lasts until 12:55 and will be of general interest, especially to non-league members. During that time, our speakers will share with you our cultural, social, and political philosophy and our plan for freedom. We'll have a dinner break from 12:55 to 2:55, which will give those interested in gathering at that meal time enough time to travel to the restaurant or eat, chat, and return to this meeting location for our business session, which will only be open to league members. Did everybody here get the little slip of paper telling you the address of where we're planning on meeting? If not, it'll be up there at the registration table. Ms. Mary can get you that information. For those non-league members who will not be returning to the business meeting, I would suggest that you take that time during our dinner to meet with our speakers if you have any questions. We're not going to have enough time following this meeting, between the meeting and going to lunch, for our speakers to be delayed. They're going to get to lunch too. They'll be attending our business meeting. The theme of today's conference is Countering Communism in the South. Most people don't know that the South has a long history of fighting communism. It all began in earnest during our 1860 War for Southern Independence. Now, most people do not associate the War for Southern Independence, or the so-called Civil War, with the fight against communism. But the great Southern theologian, James Henry Thornwell, described the participants of the epic struggle when he preached, quote, "The parties in this conflict are not merely abolitionists and slaveholders. They are atheists, socialists, communists, red Republicans, Jacobins on the one side, and the friends of order and regulated freedom on the other. In one word, the world is the battleground. Christianity and atheism, the combatants, and the progress of humanity, the state." With the help of the Red 48ers, who fled their failed communist revolutions in Europe in 1848, Lincoln and the Republican Party smashed the South, and it's been downhill for us ever since. Unlike in Europe, where class struggle was a defining wedge used by the communists, here in North America, they found that the natural animosities of unassimilable ethnic minorities provided a more clear division to cause dissent. During and following World War I, and in unison with the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, the Communist Party USA was formed in the United States in 1919. That same year, communist and anarchist violence swept across the U.S., what was known as the Red Summer, or the Red Scare. Hundreds of bombings, assassination attempts, riots, and lynchings took place, with ethnic tension being the lead motivator. In March of that year, President Woodrow Wilson stated that, quote, "The American Negro returning from abroad," that's Europe in World War I, "would be our greatest medium in conveying Bolshevism to America." In August of that same year, the Wall Street Journal wrote, quote, "Race riots seem to have for their genesis a Bolshevist, a Negro, and a gun." We could cover decades of communist violence in the United States and the South, including the 1960s Cultural Revolution and Black Power movement. Most of this is being swept under the rug. Most Southerners do not even realize that we had a communist revolution right here in our own backyard, and that our world was changed forever by what they call the Black Power movement, but they also call the Civil Rights movement to give it cover of legitimacy. Who's now seeing the pictures of Martin Luther King Jr. and Red Rosa Parks being trained at the Highland Folk School, communist-backed Highland Folk School in Monteagle, Tennessee? Who is not aware of Fred Williams, the Monroe, North Carolina chairman of the NAACP, who fled kidnapping charges to communist Cuba, was welcomed with open arms by the Castro regime, given a 50,000-watt radio station to broadcast what was known as Radio Free Dixie into our Southland during the 1960s. Radio Free Dixie was used to broadcast communist propaganda to stir up the ethnic minorities in the South in an attempt to cause a communist revolution. And today, we still live with the results of that incremental communist revolution. In the 1970s, we saw the rise of such leftist groups as the Weather Underground, the Black Liberation Army, the SDS, and over 2,500 bombings during an 18-month period in the early 70s. Bringing it up to today, in leaving a whole lot of that communist history untouched. We're still faced with the anarcho-communists of Antifa and the Marxist Black Lives Matter movement, who have been conducting cultural genocide against our Southern culture and our civilization for about the last 2 years. You've seen it on TV day and night. In summary, the South has been at war with communism for 160 years, and they are not going to quit until we are dead in our graves. And the League of the South is here to provide some opposition to their movement.